7.3. More multiplication properties of exponents. Number 1 is asking you to simplify the expression. When we have a variable or number being raised to a power, and that is being raised to a power, then you have to multiply the exponents. So you just multiply 6 times 2. So our answer is going to be x to the 12. That's number 1. Number 2, you're being asked to simplify. You have a to the negative 2 power being raised to the 5 power. So let's take a closer look at that. So since we have an exponent being raised to a power, the rule says we multiply the exponent. So we do that and we get negative 10. Now we need to write our answer with positive exponents. When we have a number or variable being raised to a negative exponent, we got to write it underneath 1 and make the exponent positive. So our answer is going to be 1 over a to the positive 10. Typing that in, we have 1 over a to the positive 10. And that's number 2. Number 3, it is asking you to simplify the expression. Let's take a closer look at that. So when we have all of this being raised to a power, we need to raise each of these to the power that is being raised to. So I'm going to raise the 2 to the power of 2, and I'm going to raise the y to the 1/2 to the power of 2. When I do that, I'll have 2 to the 2 power, and then I will multiply these two exponents together. Because the rule says when you raise an exponent to a power, you have to multiply them. So 2 squared is 4, 1/2 times 2 is 1. And then y to the 1 is just y, so we'll have 4y. Again, 2 squared is 4, 1/2 times 2 is 1, and we don't write the 1. So our answer is 4y. So our answer is going to be 4y. That's number 3. All right, let's take a look at number 4. It says to simplify the following expression and to write our answer in scientific notation. So let's take a closer look at that. Okay, so we are raising all of this to the power of 2. So what we need to do is raise each of these to the power of 2. So we have 5 squared times 10 to the 4 squared. So 5 squared gives us 25. When you raise the 10 to the 4 to the squared, you multiply the exponents, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 25 times 10 to the 8. Now we have to write that in scientific notation. So what we need to do is we have a decimal point here. We got to move it to the left one. When we move a decimal place to the left, we got to add 1 to the exponent. So we have 2.5 times 10 to the 9. So that would be our answer. So let's put that in. So again, we have 2.5 times 10 to the 9. And that's number 4. Number 5, it is just asking you to simplify the expression. So when we have a variable with the exponent being raised to a power, all we have to do is multiply them together. So 2 times 8 is 16. So we have b to the 16 power. And that is your answer for number 5. Number 6, it is asking you to simplify the expression. Now, when we have a variable with the exponent being raised to an exponent, we just multiply the exponents together. So our answer is going to be x to the positive 45, because 9 times 5 is 45. And that's number 6. Number 7, it is asking you to simplify the expression. Write the result without using negative exponents. Okay, so let's take a closer look at that. Okay, so remember the rule is when an exponent is being raised to a power, we multiply the exponents. So we have 6 times negative 3, which will give me negative 18. Now it says to write it with positive exponents. So when we have a negative exponent, we got to write it underneath 1 and make the exponent positive. So my answer is going to be 1 over p to the 18 power. So typing that in, I have 1 over p to the 18 power. That's number 7. Okay, number 8. We are again raising this variable with the exponent to an exponent. So let's take a closer look and see what we have to do. When we raise a variable with the exponent to an exponent, you multiply the exponents together. So 2 over 5 times negative 1 over 6 will be negative 2 over 30. You multiply across. Now we have to reduce this fraction. we could divide top and bottom by 2, and we'll get negative 1 over 15. Now notice we have a negative exponent. It wants us to write our answer with positive exponents, so I have to move this underneath 1. So I'll have 1 over q to the 1 over 15. It is a bit ugly of an answer, but that is your answer. Okay, let's type that in. 1 over q to the 1 over 15. And that is correct. Number 9 is asking you to simplify this expression. Let's take a closer look at it. So we have d times d to the negative 5 being raised to the negative 6. So we got to take care of the exponents first. So we multiply negative 5 times negative 6 because the exponent is being raised to a power, and we'll have d to the 30. Now it's common to forget this one on the outside, but this has an exponent of 1. When we multiply these two together, we add the exponents, so 30 plus 1 will be d to the 31, and that will be the answer, so let's put that in. So we'll have d to the exponent of 31 as my answer. That's number 9. Number 10, we have x to the third being raised to the 1/5 power. Then we have z to the third being raised to the 0 power. So let's take a closer look at that. So the first thing I notice is I have a 0 exponent. And when I multiply exponents, 3 times 0 would just be 0. So I have z to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so that's going to go away, and I'll just be left with x to the third to the 1/5 power. When I raise a number to an exponent, I multiply the exponent, so I'll have 3 over 5 as my exponent, so x to the 3/5 power. So let's put that in. I'm going to type in x to the 3/5 power, and that's number 10. Okay, number 11. You are again being asked to raise 36m to the 6th to the negative 1/2 power. So let's take a look at that. Now what I'd like to do first is, since I have a negative exponent, I want to automatically make it positive. So to do that, I'm going to write all of this underneath 1. So 1 over 36m to the 6th, all raised to the 1/2 power. So now what I'm going to do is raise the 36 and the m to the 6th to the 1/2 power. So when I raise something to the 1/2 power, if I put that into the calculator, it's essentially taking the square root, because the bottom number is the root, so that's 2, so square root. The square root of 36 is 6. When I have 6 raised to the power of 1/2, I multiply the two together. So 6 times 1/2 would just be 3. So I have 1 over 6m to the third. So let's put that in. So typing that in, that's correct, so that's number 11. Okay, number 12 is like number 11, so let's take a closer look at it. So since I have a negative exponent, I'm going to want to make it positive first before distributing it in. So I'm going to write this over top of 1 and make that exponent positive. Now I'm going to raise the 2 and the d to the 5/6, both to the 2nd power. So I'll have 2 squared, and then I'll multiply 5 over 6 times 2, which gives me 10 over 6. Now I can reduce 10 over 6 by dividing top and bottom by 2, which will give me 5/3. And then 2 squared is 4, so I have 4d in 5/3 power all underneath of 1. So let's type that in. 1 over 4d to the 5/3 power. And that's number 12. All right, number 13. We are again raising everything to a single power, so let's take a look at it. So I have no negative exponent this time. So that means all I simply do is raise each of these exponents to the power. So I multiply them together, so 5 over 9 times 9 is just going to be 5. Whenever you multiply a fraction by its denominator, you're just left with the numerator up top. When you multiply 2 times 9, you get 18. So I'll have first p to the 5 and q to the 18. So that would be my answer. So let's type it in. So p to the 5 and q to the 18. That's number 13. All right, so let's look at number 14. It says to simplify the expression. Now, There is a lot going on, but let's take a closer look at it and we'll take it step by step. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is raise all of this to this exponent and then raise this to this exponent. So when I raise a variable with an exponent to an exponent, I have to multiply them together. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 1 over 30 and negative 5 times 1 over 30. 3 times 1 over 30 is 3 over 30, and negative 5 times 1 over 30 is negative 5 over 30. You multiply these 2 to 1 basically, and you'll get that number over top the other. 6 times 4 gives me 24. So let's clean this up before we go any further. I could reduce my fractions. 3 over 30 gets reduced to 1 over 10. I divide top and bottom by 3. I can reduce negative 5 over 30 to negative 1 over 6, divide top and bottom by 6, all next to the u to the 24 power. Now I can take this a step further. So notice that I have 2 of these with the same base and 1 of them not. That means, looking at the u's, because they have the same base, since they're being multiplied, I can add those exponents together. I cannot add it to the v's exponent because it's a different base, but I can add 1 over 10 to 24, so let's do that on the calculator. I'm going to type in 1 over 10 so we can do alpha y equals and enter. So I have 1 over 10, go outside the fraction, and add 24 to it, so plus 24. Press enter, I'll have 241 over 10. So let's go back. So I'll have u to the 241 over 10. Now I have the v to the negative 1 over 6. Now we need to have this with positive exponents. So what I need to do is take this v to the negative 1 over 6 and write it underneath the u to the 241 over 10. That looks kind of obnoxious, but that is our answer, so let's put it in. Alright, typing that in, I have u to the 241 over 10 power, all divided by v to the positive 1 over 6 power. And that is correct. That is number 14. Okay, number 15. It is asking you to simplify the following expression. We have 7 times 10 to the 5th power, all being raised to the 2nd power. And it asks you to write our answer in scientific notation. So let's take a closer look at it. So all I need to do is raise each of these to the 2nd power. So I'll have 7 squared times 10 to the 5th being squared. Now 7 squared is 49. 10 to the 5th squared, I multiply 5 times 2, and I get 10. Now I need to put this in scientific notation. So I move the decimal place to the left once, and when I move it to the left, I add 1 to the exponent. So I have 4.9 when I move it to the left one, times 10 to the 10 plus 1. The exponent of 10 is being added by 1, and I'll get 10 to the 11th power. So my answer will be 4.9 times 10 to the 11th power. So let's put that in. So I have 4.9 times 10 to the 11th power. That's number 15. Number 16 has 4 times 10 to the negative 3rd, all being raised to the 3rd power. So let's take a closer look at that. So I'm going to raise each of these to the 3rd power. So I'm going to have 4 to the 3rd power and 10 to the negative 3 to the 3rd power. So 4 to the 3rd power is 64, and then negative 3 times 3, because an exponent raised to a power I multiply, is negative 9. So now I got to put this in scientific notation. So move the decimal place to the left one, I'll get 6.4, and when I go to the left one, I add 1, so negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. So I should have 6.4 times 10 to the negative 8. So let's put that in. So I'm going to type in 6.4 times 10 to the negative 8. And that's number 16.